This is The Gorge. This is a podcast where my friend Sarah and I gorge ourselves and talking about what's happening in the world of video games. Let's pass on.
You did it too!
Fucked it up.
It's okay. The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge, where if you contribute to our beautiful little Patreon, eventually, once we hit the $200 a month mark, we will start That's Hell You're Walking Into, a podcast where I assault Ben with knowledge of the Fate franchise, which is absolutely my favorite thing in the universe, and you're probably going to hear about a little bit of it tonight. So hey Ben, what are we doing tonight?
This week we're talking about what we've been up to, and then what's happening in the world of video games and other kinds of news and stuff like that.
Yay, it's a roundup episode.
Yay! I love doing these. These are so much fun because I get to talk about a bunch of stuff.
Exactly. So, do you want me to start or do you want to start?
You go ahead. You go first.
Mine have been pretty simple because I haven't done a lot because tragically 2 weeks ago I was sent back to my office. Unfortunately, even though a pandemic is going on, I now have to return to my office. And I'm still adjusting, so I've been pretty tired. So I haven't really played a lot, except for getting back into Fate Grand Order, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds. But in the meantime, I also downloaded, but have not started yet. Hold on. Helltaker? Have you heard about this?
I don't know what it is. I thought it was like a manga or an anime. What is Helltaker?
Helltaker, I haven't even started it. I'm going to start it probably as soon as we get off this call. Helltaker is a puzzle, and it, like, as soon as I read it, I was like, I must have this.
Okay, I heard the first word you said, so now I'm really curious, because it does not look like that at all.
It's a free puzzle game on Steam, where you solve puzzles and interact with hot demon chicks in hell. It's like a harem game.
Okay, so is it like a gacha puzzle game?
No, it's totally free. It's literally like an artist put out a puzzle game. It's not gacha, like you finish little puzzle sections and you get to interact with new hot demon chicks in suits. So it's not like explicitly lewd or anything like that. I've seen pictures of all the girls and every single one of them is my type. So
is it like a dating sim, or is it just like you talk to the girl and then you move on to the next one?
I think it's like you talk to the girl and move on to the next one, and you can like gain affinity with them in some. I haven't even started it, mind you. I literally downloaded it last night because I saw stuff on Twitter about it, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. It's free, like totally free. There's no gacha mechanics or anything like that. So I'm gonna give it a shot. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. I saw the designs for all of the different demon girls, and it is like extremely my shit, which is why I downloaded it.
Of course.
Because the deal is that it's all like white-haired girls in suits.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw it, and I was like, all right, fine. You got me, you bastards. It's that easy. But otherwise, I haven't really played anything except for like the usual stuff. So like putzing around in FS7 Remake, playing Fate Grand Order, which owns and continues to own, and I'll die on this hill, frankly. And that's like, and listening to like, podcasts, and YouTube series. So the 2 things I'm going to plug tonight are, John Boyce and Alex Blumenthal finally finished The History of Seattle Mariners video series. It's 2.5 hours long. It's free. It's on YouTube. You should absolutely 100% go watch the history of the Seattle Mariners. It is in the same degree as Fighting in the Age of Loneliness, which is my other favorite sports-related YouTube series on YouTube, which is done by Felix Biederman of Chapo Trap House and directed by John Boyce of SB Nation. But the history of the Seattle Mariners is exactly what it sounds like, which is just the history of the strangest sports team in the history of baseball and sports in general. Because it's just like, hey, did you know that the Seattle Mariners got started because of an arsonist during the Great Depression?
I did not know that. That's awesome.
It kicks ass. It was apparently the original stadium, like the original baseball field for Seattle was burned down by someone who, during the Great Depression, was extremely disillusioned with the concept of capitalism and rich people. Mm-hmm. And so he literally set fire to the baseball stadium in Seattle and then just kind of hung out on a field and watched it burn. And it was like, that's cool. Good for you, bro. So that's how, like, that's why it owns, is that the Seattle Mariners begin with arson and just kind of move on from there. There's toilet jello. There's people intentionally throwing up on a baseball field to make other people throw up. Ichiro is there, and Ichiro kicks ass because at one point Ichiro is asked by a reporter, "What's your dog's name?" And then Suzuki Ichiro responds with, "I wouldn't feel right telling you his name without his permission first." Yeah.
Amazing.
It's incredible. Ichiro is so cool. Ken Griffey Jr. played for the Seattle Mariners for like a long fucking time. And I'm sure even Ben knows who Ken Griffey Jr. is.
I know who Ken Griffey Jr. is because he had a video game on the Super Nintendo.
Exactly. So that's what you need to know, is that Ken Griffey Jr. played for the Mariners for an extremely long time. And it is wonderful because the Mariners have never won a World Series. They haven't gone to the playoffs in like 20 years. They are the last great cursed baseball franchise, I think, after the Cubs broke theirs in 2016. And so it's this extremely wonderful story about how, like, winning doesn't matter, like, more so the concept of just, like, really loving the sport. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't really necessarily like baseball. Like, baseball is not my thing. But I can, like, respect baseball and, like, baseball people. Like, even though, mostly because, like, I live in Alabama where baseball is just not even a thing. Like, we have the Braves, and they're in Georgia, and, you know, we don't respect Georgia here in Alabama. So, like, but it's this whole idea of just, like, loving the sport, no matter what the sport is, mm-hmm. just for the pure joy of watching it play out, you know?
Yeah. That is the Lions, I know.
You have the Lions, absolutely. You understand. It's the same thing. It's this whole idea of just, like, watching a sport play out and just loving it for what it is and not for winning or losing. You know, like, obviously, I live in Alabama, and we're having a pretty good time vis-a-vis winning things lately. I don't know if you've heard. But hey, there was even a time in our history where we were bad and lost a lot, and, you know, you still love it even when you're bad. And that's kind of like what's, like, the history of the Seattle Mariners is about, is just, like, loving your chosen sport and, like, the stories that are attached to that chosen sport, because, like, that's the cool thing. I think that's, like, the ultimately cool thing about sports. Hey, this is a video game podcast. I'm talking extensively about how much I fucking love sports.
At least it's not talking about wrestling.
God,
we haven't gone that far.
We haven't gone that far yet because those are the lowest form of sports fans. I don't mean that. But, like, you know, just, like, the cool thing about sports is really almost more so, like, the stories attached to sports and the human achievement attached to sports. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody who is a big sports fan can tell you, like, 2 or 3 really cool stories from the history of their chosen franchise, you know, no matter what it is. You know, I know your dad is a big Tigers fan.
Mm-hmm. We got off a Zoom call because it's my cousin's birthday, so the family's just gotten into the habit of calling to wish them all a happy birthday.
Sure.
And my dad and my grandpa and my uncle were talking about, like, because I guess they aired, like, the '84 World Series on one of the sports channels.
Probably on ESPN Classics, if I had to guess.
No, it was one of the local stations.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so they just aired that. So they're talking like, oh yeah, what inning was it where he hit the home run?
Oh, that's like, so cool. See, I love stuff like that.
they know this game back and forth so much that they know exactly what's happening in every single inning and stuff like that.
Sure, absolutely. I'm the exact same way. I could tell you, we call it Tua in 26, which was the Alabama-Georgia championship game, which kicks ass and is probably one of my favorite, like, recent sports stories. And then there is the Kick Six, which is a story of defeat and sucks. And Auburn fans really like the story of the Kick Six. And then there's the Goal Line Stand, which is an Alabama story of success again. And it's like, you have like all of these stories that you just can trade with other people and talk about like endlessly. The Last Dance just finished airing, which is about Michael Jordan, of course. Mm-hmm. And it's it's all about sports stories. And like the stories are kind of like what really unites people to like love a certain sport. Like when you kind of latch on to like the stories attached to that sport, you kind of end up latched onto that sport.
Yeah.
And that's what the history of the Seattle Mariners is about. Like really more so than anything else, it's about those stories and those people involved in them. So you've got Griffey and Randy Jackson and Ichiro Suzuki and all of these different characters, and it's just like, it's 2.5 hours and it's free. That's documentary length shit. You can literally just go watch on YouTube and not have to pay a dime, unlike Netflix, It kicks ass. I cannot recommend it enough. I was so excited every single time a new episode went up to listen to the history of the Seattle Mariners. And the other thing, the other thing that just went up literally like 2 hours before it aired. Every time we do a roundup episode, I'm like, new Jacob Geller. And I am now at this point convinced that Jacob Geller is the best person, the best YouTube video game person that you could be watching right now, because all of his videos are like expertly edited and put together beautifully. And they're all about like just like the context of video games. It's not just like talking about how good a video game is, but more so like where video games fall in the cultural context surrounding them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
About like how video games, which are considered to be kind of a lower form of art still in 2020.
We've had this conversation at least like 12 times.
There's no such thing, there's no such thing as not being art. There can just be bad art. It's still art.
Yeah.
But it's still like even video games, which are considered a lower form of art, it's fine. Still relate to, even if the creator does not intend it, it still relates to the cultural context surrounding it. And you and I have spoken, like, really privately about the concepts in the Final Fantasy VII remake of manufactured consent. How, like, in FF7 remake, some of the jingoism that springs up feels like if we weren't, late 20s, early 30-something adults in the United States in the year 2020, who lived through the post 9/11 fervor of just like fucking nuke 'em, some of that would feel hyperbolic when people say they hate our way of life and things like that. You hear that a lot. That's a line that an NPC says in Midgar, is like, they hate our way of life. Fuck those Wu-Tians, And it's like, oh, that would feel hyperbolic if it weren't for the fact that we literally lived through it.
Yeah.
If we had not literally grown up on the news saying they hate our way of life, So Jacob Geller literally just put out a new video literally 2 hours before we recorded this episode as of 5/25/2020 called Life in the Shadow of Midgar, which is about the concept of being poor in the shadow of industrial processing, and this idea of being like, if you're poor, you go like totally unacknowledged, and how like, the reason why Midgar itself feels so unique as a setting. So he talks a lot about 3 different things, which is Parasite, the Bong Joon-ho movie that was just one best movie, just one best picture.
Right.
A Akira Kurosawa movie called Above and Below, and a personal tour he took of the Undercity of Edinburgh in Scotland, where like there were literally like people living underground in like apartment buildings essentially, but they were underground. And how shitty how shitty it was to live there, basically. And it was, but one of the most important points he makes is that like when you go, and especially when you do the Edinburgh tour, there is the inclination to kind of fetishize that poverty.
Right.
And to make it, basically the line he says is, "Could you imagine being poor?" And it's like...
the misery porn aspect of it.
It's the misery porn aspect of it, totally. And it's like, yeah, could you imagine being poor? And it's like, yeah, buddy. A lot of people could easily imagine being poor. Like, you know, like, you live in the suburbs of Detroit. I live in rural Alabama, in the middle of nowhere, where most of the good jobs, and that's in extremely exaggerated finger quotes, are like factory jobs where you build parts for Toyota, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, a few months ago, there was an Economist article about like the physical danger that people who work at the Hyundai plant in Alabama undergo, where it's like, you know, there's tons of safety violations and shit like that at the Hyundai plant here in Alabama. And so it's like, yeah, could you imagine being poor, having to put your body on the line to every day just to exist? And it's like, yeah, turns out I actually can extremely easily. And the reason why Midgar stands out so much is this idea that like it's not ever really fetishized. It actually just kind of seems like this is how like people live, and this is how, you know, people just get by. And it's like, yeah, it kind of sucks and it's kind of shitty, but like, you know, we're not like pantomiming, just like rattling coins in like a tin can, like, you know, we're all just kind of like, we're busting our asses, and like everybody I know is just getting by. There,
you aren't seeing people wrapped in like tattered cloaks.
Like,
sitting
exactly.
in the dirt, you know,
just hanging out on somebody's front porch all day. Like, yeah, no, everybody like works all of the time. You know?
Damn it! Now I'm just. This might sound horrible. Now I'm just imagining like Scarlett doing one of those like $1, if you know, $1 a month can help feed a single person in the lower quarters, and it's just like it like pans like people who were just kind of like hanging out. Like
just minding their own business.
They're just like listening to a jukebox out in like the, you know, on the basketball court.
Yeah, no, everybody's just like minding their own business. Like, no, thank you. We don't actually need your misery porn. And you're like, you know, it's like, that's like part of the reason why Midgar is so cool. He actually makes a point that he'd literally never played the OG FF7. He only knew about it in like kind of vague impressions. As most people who've never played the original Final Fantasy VII know. You know, somebody dies, and like Midgar is there, and it's like, okay, you know, but then you go in and he says like no, this is like my favorite video game setting now. And it's like, yeah, surprises, because Midgar kicks ass.
Yeah.
And it's like when you really hear somebody talk about it like that in depth, to be like, this is like really laying out what like Final Fantasy VII is kind of about, even after the story kind of leaves Midgar, is this whole idea of just like the damage being done by capitalism. Explicitly, like the damage done to the world by capitalism, not by progress. Because it's extremely easy for a story like this to go like, Herber, electricity bad, Thomas Edison worship the devil. But to more so say like, no, this is what happens when like capitalism does its thing. And it's not even like saying like this is capitalism run amok, like, you know, actual political hack fraud Elizabeth Warren likes to say.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, this is just what it does.
Yeah,
it's not a bug, it's a feature, as they say.
This is just what it looks like, actually.
Yeah. It's the damage done to, like, societies and environments and stuff like that. Like, you know, he points out that, and I didn't even think about it when I was playing the game, that, so you do the Midgar Museum in Shinra HQ, and it doesn't even mention the slums.
You're right, it doesn't.
It's half the city's population, and they just gleefully gloss over it. And it's like, that would seem hyperbolic if we didn't live in the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's like, no, that actually totally tracks. We'll just pretend that all of this poverty and suffering just doesn't exist. You know, like, Midgar is just the upper plate. Never mind that probably more than half the population lives on the lower plate, considering that's how, like, societies work, is that there's almost certainly more poor people than there are rich people. So you could almost know for a fact that the amount of people living under the plate outnumbers the people living above the plate.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, you know, it's just, I cannot recommend this video enough, because then it talks about stuff like how insane it is that, like, the reactors are just that close to residential areas, until you remember the fact that, like, there's 6 miles of coast in Texas where people live right next to oil refineries. Literally, there's a podcast I listen to called Well, There's Your Problem, which is about engineering disasters, and 2 of the hosts live basically right next door to an oil refinery in the heart of Philadelphia. And it's like, oh, right, this is not absurdist at all.
Yeah,
This is literally just hyperbole to point out the fact that this is how normal people live every single day of their lives.
The only difference between Midgar and any, like, other major, like, city, like, industrial manufacturing city is that in Final Fantasy you can equip a magic rock to your arm that makes you shoot fire.
That's it. Yeah, that's totally it. There is the concept of, like, having like, volatile power, and, like, you know for a fact, that's what's crazy, is you know for a fact that Mako energy is, like, volatile and dangerous and causes, like, illness and all that stuff, and in the back of your head you're like, so why are these fucking power plants literally right next to extremely populated areas? And it's like, because that's just how it is in the real world, man.
That's just how it is. That's just what happens.
That's just what happens. They stick oil refineries right next to, like, neighborhoods where people live, and, you know, the people who live there are, surprise, surprise, predominantly mostly poor, mostly black, you know, it's like, oh, right, that's how it is.
Yeah.
There's no fantasy there, and that's why, like, Midgar feels so, I think, real, even though, like, its insane visual metaphor is stretched to the limit of, like, human comprehension, you know, like, it is the crazy exaggerated version, but it's exaggerated version of, like, the real world. Like, rich people live up top and poor people live below, and that is still totally true in the real world in 2020, you know. It's just wild to me to, like, think about it in that context of just being like, oh yeah, no, this is all, like, he says, I actually wrote it down in, like, my phone notes because it was just so, like, oh yeah. He says, Midgar is not a model of city we should aspire to be. In many ways, we are already there.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like, oh, right. It's this idea of, like, oh, hey, yeah, that's why I think, why Midgar should absolutely have been its own game, and why people who complain about Midgar being its own game need to shut up, is that, like, Midgar is, like, the heart and soul of this franchise, but 2, or I guess of this franchise. FF7 is in its own way.
It's a franchise,
yeah.
It's
a franchise.
It's a compilation. It's called The Compilation.
It's true. Yeah, that's true. But also just like, it is kind of vital for like the story that's being told to let Midgar be more than 5 hours long. Like, to really get in there and see it and know all of the people living in it and experience, like, those lives in a more fleshed out way. And to, like, really feel, because of, like, the perspective of the original Final Fantasy VII, you never really got this sense that there was, like, you know, 1 billion tons of steel hanging over your head all of the time because of, obviously, the way the camera was. It's a fixed camera on pre-rendered backgrounds. You never really saw the plate that often. But, like, in Final Fantasy VII Remake, you can just twist the camera whenever you want and realize that, like, you are literally underneath 1 billion tons of steel. Just hanging over your head. It's like living at the foot of an active volcano. And it's just like any number of things. I mean, that's totally what it is. That's what the Sector 7 drop is like about. It's just like, even if Sector 7 hadn't been sabotaged, anything could happen to make that fall on its own. And it's like this whole idea of the excess and arrogance of capital, of like, you can just gleefully put hundreds of thousands of people's lives in danger just because you can,
because it didn't fall over immediately, so it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Yeah, it's fine. We can go out and party in the middle of a pandemic. We can send people back out to work. It's totally fine. Nothing's collapsed yet, so who says we shouldn't do that? It's like, it's so good. I cannot recommend this video enough to just like really sit down and understand why Midgar as a visual metaphor is so powerful and why the setting itself is so good, because it is one of the only times in like a video game that really does its like legwork to humanize the idea of just being broke and not necessarily like being like, you know, like nobly poor or whatever. You're just kind of like a working stiff who lives in a shitty part of town. Like, that's what it is. Like, more, it's just like an exceptionally shitty part of town, you know? That's what it is. Like, more so than anything. So, like, yeah, absolutely. Go listen to this video. Go watch this video. It's so fucking good. It's 20 minutes long. It's worth your time. And, like, yeah, it just, I was watching it literally right before we recorded, and it just was just like, it just stuck in my craw. It's like, I have to talk about this. Because it's just like, when you are living in an area that is kind of economically, like, I wouldn't even say like economically depressed, but more so just kind of like economically on the brink, where it's like one setback could totally, I mean, that's again what this, all of this pandemic shit has basically revealed, is that we all live in an economically on the brink lifestyle. The entire country, an entire country just kind of hovering on the brink at all of the times. It's just like, it makes that this video, and it makes like FF7 in general just kind of resonate even more so. It's like, oh yeah, we all kind of live like essentially with 1 billion tons of steel hanging over our head all of the time, unless you're just super wealthy. It's super fast. It's fascinating. Absolutely, massively recommend. You should be following Jacob Geller on YouTube. You should just be subscribed to him because he kicks ass. So yeah, that's what I've got to talk about today.
All right. Anything else you did?
That's it. Okay. Other than Fate Grand Order. I will say, real quick before we get launched into yours. I finished Camelot in Fate Grand Order, and I was extremely ambivalent toward the main character, because the main character is essentially just like a blank slate that you were meant to imprint on, right? And then I get to Camelot, and Camelot has Artoria, so like Saber is the villain, right?
Ooh.
Saber is the bad guy. Lancer Artoria is the bad guy of Camelot, and her entire like plan is to essentially just preserve... The most simplified version is to just preserve the tiniest amount of, like, human spirit, not even necessarily human lives, just human spirit, in the face of total extinction, because she says she loves humanity so much, and she only sees this as her only option. And so the only thing she can do is preserve, like, human spirit in this idealized form of Camelot that's set up in the Holy Land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an incredibly simplified version of what's going on in Camelot. But, you know, she says, like, this is the only way, and there's no other option, and, you know, I love humanity so much that I have to do this. And then the main character has the dialogue option to say, we are not butterflies on a board. And it was
like...
I know!
I like that.
Yes! It is literally the equivalent of, why don't you put the whole world in a bottle?
Yeah!
Yeah, right?
That's real good.
It's so good. We are not butterflies on a board, and then you beat the shit out of Artoria. Out of Lancer Artoria. And then just, like, also you get, like, all of Bedivere's story. Again, what blows my mind the hardest is that Fate kind of adheres extremely faithfully to Arthurian legend, and more specifically to the Once and Future King, which is like the kind of like your go-to beginner's Arthurian legend book is the Once and Future King. It's massive and sometimes it sucks, but it's pretty good for the most part. I read it when I was in high school, of course. And it adheres pretty strongly to the Once and Future King in a lot of ways. So, like, Bedivere's story is still, like, functionally the same as Arthurian legend, where he refused to cast Excalibur back into the lake because he knew it meant the king would die. And, like, that's a thing that, you know, he is so loyal to the king that, you know, after the king dies, the fact that he betrayed, you know, his king, like, haunts him. And that's, like, a huge part of what's going on with Bedivere's story in Camelot. And it's, like, Bedivere is just, like, genuinely some of the best character writing in any Fate story in general. Is what's going on with Bedivere in Camelot. And that's not even hyperbole. I think that's, like, Camelot, and it sucks because Camelot is the sixth singularity. So you have to get really far into Fate Grand Order to hit the really, really good writing. So it's like, no, I promise you. It's kind of like when people say that Final Fantasy 13 gets good at the 25-hour mark. Yeah, it's the same thing. So, like, I really empathize with Final Fantasy 13 fans now. And it's like... But no, I swear, once you hit that part, it gets really, really good, because you have all of this incredible stuff going on with Bedivere, you have Artoria being the bad guy, you have the main character finally having a personality and saying, like, you know, we're not butterflies on a board, like I said, which is so good. Yeah, all of it just owns, man. Like, you should donate to our Patreon so I can talk extensively for 2.5 hours once a month about how much I love Fate Grand Order, because I really, really love Fate Grand Order a lot. It's extremely good. Like, I know that most people who are listening to this are not going to actually play Fate Grand Order because it is a gacha game, but if you want to, like, play a good visual novel, like, yeah, it actually does kick ass. So, huge recommend. Absolutely. So, that's me. I'm good now.
Okay.
30 minutes of me ranting about capitalism and how much I love Fate Grand Order. It's cool.
Ranting about how much capitalism sucks, then also that you play a gacha game.
You know, it's fine. It's cool.
Because you don't spend any money on it.
What?
Because you don't spend any money on it.
No. Once a year I buy Saint Quartz. I tell myself once a year I will spend $30 on Fate, because it's like Shia, who follows me on Twitter and also is in our Discord, and who I also talk to on another server, he helped me kind of rationalize it out. It's like, you get enough enjoyment out of Fate that it's okay if you spend like $30 a year on
it's
on
fine.
Grand Order. It's because, like, that's, like, you know, I don't spend a lot of money. I'm not a whale, that's for damn sure. But, like, you know, every now and then it's like, yeah, I get enough value out of this game that I feel like it's totally worth it to buy Saint Quartz every now and then. Extremely rarely. So, but no, other than that, no, I don't spend, like, a lot of money on fake Grand Order. No, I'm not stupid. I don't spend $6,000 on this game like some people I, like, listen to on YouTube have freely admitted to doing, which is just, like, I can't even fathom.
It always makes me think of way back. This is dating it, but there's that Penny Arcade comic where they're talking about, like, when League of Legends was the big thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, League of Legends is great and it's free. It's so free. How much have you spent on League of Legends? I have spent $10,000.
That's totally it. I think I have spent so NAFGO launched 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Something like that. I'm not sure exactly. But it's been a few years. And I would say that the most I have spent in the entire length of my playing NAFGO is like probably like $80.
That's not that bad then.
That's really not that bad. Over the course of just like occasionally dropping like $20 here and $30 there to get a couple extra Saint Quartz to roll in the gacha. Like, that's really not that bad.
You spend more on your PSN account.
Oh God, absolutely.
That, so that's fine.
I spend way more on Steam every year than I do on fucking FGO, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And you can do, for the record, if you want to be like it's called, so there's free to play, there's cheap to play, and there's whales. If you want to be like a cheap to play player, where you extremely rarely spend a little bit of money on FGO, you can do pretty well. Like, you can be extremely happy with, like, your servant loadout and stuff like that. So, like, huge recommend even just doing that every now and then. Anyways, I'm done talking about Fate. Now.
You gotta pay us more if you want to hear more Fate.
Like a gacha game!
Yeah.
It's free to play until it's not.
So, I had actually a pretty busy month. Like, the last few weeks were pretty busy because for a while, it was just Animal Crossing, which is my gacha game.
Well, in your defense, at least Animal Crossing is free. Like,
yeah, well,
once you
buy it,
you the one-time purchase, everything else in Animal Crossing, because they don't have any, like, DLC plans, right?
Nope. Well, their plan is to roll out, like, holiday events and adding more of the, like, characters returning.
Okay.
Because there's still a lot of things from I stopped playing it. The DS was the last one I played, so I don't know exactly a whole lot about, like, other characters.
Right.
But like Brewster, the pigeon that serves coffee, he's not in New Horizon.
Aww.
Like, Celeste doesn't have an observatory. She's in the game. You can talk to her to get recipes for, like, stuff that you craft with shooting star elements. But she doesn't have the observatory where you can create constellations.
Okay.
So, you know, and when the game launched, it didn't have characters like Red in it, and that was like that he came later on. So they're just gonna roll out the new characters as time goes on and free updates and stuff.
Oh, it is like FGO.
Yeah. But they did a weird thing where they decreased the spawn rate of certain things.
What?
And I feel like it was because people complained so much about Bunny Day that they're like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
People like it's not that the lesson they learned was not people don't like Bunny Day interfering with their normal, like, harvest routines. The lesson they learned was decrease the spawn rate of special things.
That's the most Nintendo thing I've ever heard in my life.
And it's like, no, we want to be able to catch coelacanths and talk to Red and buy paintings and stuff and not, like, see him once a week.
Yeah, no, that's an extremely Nintendo approach to things, I feel like. Is like, well, fuck you, fine. Yeah. We're just gonna decrease the spawn rate for everything. It's like, no, you missed the point.
Like, I think they did nerf the spawn rate of tarantulas and scorpions.
Okay.
Which I think is kind of fine because, like, they were a pretty big hassle early on. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, because they're wasps that you don't intentionally spawn, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're shaking trees, you're running the risk of getting a wasp, but scorpions and tarantulas can just appear.
Right, yeah, and there's really nothing you can do about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, but beyond that, like, I'm getting really big into terraforming my island and making it look more like a place.
Oh, someday I'll get to do that.
It's very tedious because you can only move one person's house a day. So
what?
Like in order to align like everyone's house properly.
See, Ben, when you tell me things like this, I'm just like, all of this makes so much sense for like the Nintendo game philosophy.
The thing about like you can have one house and one bridge or incline at the same time, but you can't do multiple houses a day. And that does kind of make sense because like the spaces still exist. So it's like if you're trying to move a house, their house will still be there, but you'll have to place the lot down as well. So like if you're trying to move multiple houses, you could have potentially like 10 houses and then 10 empty lots that need to be filled the next day.
Yeah, I guess. It just seems so like, I don't know. It seems very, like I said, it seems very much this idea of like the Nintendo game philosophy, where it isn't even necessarily about like convenience. It almost feels like arbitrary, if that makes sense.
If like, also you can just time travel and there's no consequence for that besides your turnip spoiling.
Sure, of course.
I don't, because I just don't really care that much, and it's nice to just kind of be able to kind of putz with it every day.
Right, of course.
But I'm getting big into the turnip exchange and visiting people's islands and selling for like massive profit and stuff.
Making all kinds of bank on the stock market.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going good. I'm still playing it every day, which is like the sign that it's got me in its hooks, at least.
That's fate, granddaughter.
But then, like, the last few weeks of the month, I actually did manage to break out and play other things. We're still playing Chrono Trigger Plus, which is
how's that going?
It's really good. It's, I've run into, like, a few things that are just, like, not big changes, but, like, things that are, I can tell just from playing it, like, that's different.
Right.
You can, after the first trip to prehistory, you can just recruit Ayla permanently.
Oh. Okay.
Once you get 4 party members, once Robo joins the party officially, you can swap Chrono out at any time.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. They also will add things where there's more scenes where the entire cast shows up.
Okay.
Because you in prehistory, there's that part where when you first meet Ayla, they throw that party.
Yeah.
They will include everyone in your party.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Instead of just the 3 you have with you.
Right.
So yeah, it is really, really cool. The thing about recruiting Ayla early is it feels kind of unfinished because she doesn't have any unique dialogue, and the game kind of does that thing where it kind of acts like she isn't actually there.
Sure, that's optional party members in Final Fantasy VII. Now that I think about it,
she doesn't, because when you go to, I'm in Magus' castle right now, and there's one of the rooms where you meet hallucinations of people close to whoever's in your party at the time. Like Chrono's mom will be there, or Luca's dad will be there, or the king will be there if you have Marle in your party.
Right.
Ayla doesn't have anyone. It's just a blank spot where someone would be.
Right.
But beyond that, it does do this really cool thing where it will actually determine who's in your party when they're addressing people, because usually everyone in the game will address Chrono, right?
Right.
But if you have Luca or Robo or someone as your team leader, they'll address that character instead.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Because, like, there's a bit where, like, when you storm the Zenon Bridge in 600 AD, the knights will call you Sir Chrono.
Right.
But if you have someone else, they'll call, like, if Marl is your leader, they'll just call her Comrade Marl.
Yes, Comrade.
And I was like,
yes!
It's just, like, these little things that, like, you know, would be fine if it wasn't patched in like that.
Right.
But, like, it's just these little extra steps that make it feel much better, you know?
More fleshed out and...
Yeah.
Like, keeping the whole cast in mind instead of just Chrono. Yeah, I get it. That's cool. That's very cool.
Little script changes that, like, you could just ignore, but they actually went in and did the work. I think the coolest thing about it, though, is I posted it on Twitter, I think, where in 2300 AD, when you use the healing pod things, they only restore your HP.
Yes.
Because they don't feed you.
Right, yeah.
So you're still hungry, your MP isn't restored.
Right.
Which was cool. It was cool and then sucked because there's no easy way to restore MP anymore.
So you just have to struggle and actually conserve resources. I guess that makes sense because you actually do need to be conserving your resources in this horrible hell future. That makes sense.
Really super enjoying it and also just like greatly appreciating the level of care that went into making Chrono Trigger feel as good as it does.
Right, yeah.
Compared to other JRPGs and especially like modern JRPGs.
Yeah.
Like playing it and going through like an inventory system and being like, wow, this feels really good.
Right.
Just navigating menus works super well.
The little things in life are what matter.
The
easy navigation of menus.
Going from the weird thing in FF7 Remake where you can only buy sets of 9 items at a time.
Yeah.
And just being like, you can buy as many potions as you want.
It's funny, because when my first playthrough of Chrono Trigger was kind of infamously the PlayStation 1 version. Yeah, and if you don't know, because you're too young or you never played the PS1 version, the PS1 version of Chrono Trigger came on Final Fantasy Chronicles, which was Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger in a 2-disc set. And it released at a discounted price. I think it was $30 or $20, something like that. And I got it, and I really enjoyed it. But when I was playing it as a young Sara who didn't like really grok video games in the same way that I do now, I just remember being like, why does it take so long to open the menus?
It takes like 30 seconds to a full minute to open the menu sometimes.
It takes an extremely long time,
and it's
just to hit the pause button. Yeah.
And it's because like I remember reading it, I think it's like this might be wrong, I'm just going off memory, but it's like it's because it's the Japanese version of the game.
Right. And
then it in real time translates the text to English.
Oh. That would explain it. Why it takes... It was so bad. I literally... Like, I remember playing through CT for, like, the first time when I was a kid, and just being like, do I really need to open the menu now? I just got this new sword, but do I really need to open the menu now?
You want to wait until, like, you have a full set of equipment for someone?
Yeah, exactly. That was totally it. It was just like, I was just maximizing my menu time. I was trying to spend as little time within the menus as humanly possible, just to not have to worry about load times and stuff like that. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh, it was a poorly optimized video game.
Yeah.
But as like a kid, I didn't know. I still like... That's the power of Chrono Trigger, by the way. Is that even as a child, with its horrible load times, I was like, this game owns.
It still kicks ass, no matter what.
This shit is so good. Even with all of, like, the problems of the Final Fantasy Chronicles port, I still just, like, loved that game. And then when I played it again years later on the DS, I was like, oh, wait. This is actually awesome. It looks so much better and sounds so much better. And the load times don't suck ass. Oh, is this how it's supposed to be played? Nobody tells you anything in the like late 90s, early 2000s.
There was no,
you had no
internet
way to know.
figure it out.
I didn't think to... I had a computer and I had the internet. I just didn't think to Google it. I was... Mostly because there was no Googling to be done. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think to search it and figure out, like, why is this so bad? Because in my head, I didn't even understand that the load times were bad. I was just like, this is weird. It takes a long time for the menus to open. Oh, well, I'll just I'll work with it, you know?
Yeah.
That's it.
But yeah, no, it's really good. I'm really looking forward to exploring, like, when the new content hits. I'm always, like, when I'm playing it, I'm always thinking, like, oh, how are they going to get around this bit of dialogue? Mm-hmm. Like, depending on this. Because, like, I have Ayla in my party, and I'm wondering when I defeat Magus and get shunted to prehistory again.
Right.
How is that going to work when Ayla meets Frog for the first time?
Oh, yeah. That'll be interesting.
I'm excited to see what happens.
Report back.
I will. I definitely will. But beyond that, I also found time to play a few other games and watch a bunch of stuff. I started up The Messenger. Because
that
was,
puzzle game?
No, The Messenger. The Ninja Gaiden game.
I'm thinking of The Witness.
Yes.
Is the puzzle game. Yes, okay.
I got The Messenger. I got a free download code for donating to their Sea of Storms, I think. Is that
Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars. They're Chrono Trigger inspired JRPG prequel to The Messenger.
Right.
And just as a heads up for that one,
it's that Kickstarter is over.
Yeah, that is over, and I was gonna get like their percentage count because they fucking crushed it.
Oh, it was massive. It was like 200% or something like that.
Yeah, it was. Oh, it doesn't have the percentage on the app. But yeah, it was $95,000, and they made over $1 million.
Oh!
So, good for them.
Yeah! Good for them.
Funded on my birthday. Good. So, that's cool.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, so I donated enough that they gave me a free code for The Messenger. So, I downloaded that and gave that a shot.
How do you like it?
I'm liking it. I'm not at the 16-bit part.
Okay.
But the platforming as it is feels so good.
I actually own it, and I've been meaning to start it.
It is so tight. It's so comfortable playing.
Right.
It looks amazing. I only have one problem with it.
What's
really?
That?
The writing can get a little bit Borderlands.
Oh, yeah, I get what you mean. Trying too hard.
It's trying too hard to be like, video games, am I right?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Like you go to the item shop, and the item like there's like a gateway thing that you go through, and you talk to the item, like the upgrade guy, you know. Mm-hmm. And he talks about like how he's the upgrade guy, and he sells you equipment and like items and stuff, and he's here to give you hints, but don't question it, just roll with the logic of it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And there's a bit where, like, you find, like, there's, like, the super rare power-ups where it's, like, you know how in Celeste you have to do like, you have to navigate, like, the side areas to get the B-sides and stuff?
Yeah, of course.
They have those in the Messenger where it's just, like, do this challenge room to get, like, the special upgrade. Mm-hmm. And when you get one, he does the character does the animation where, like, he holds the item up and then it cracks in his hand, you know? And the first time you do that, the shopkeeper pops up and he's like, so what, you just grab mystical artifacts and just destroy them immediately?
Oh. Yeah.
There was one joke in that thing that I did like, though.
Okay, what's that?
It is, you start, like, when you first go to the item shop, he gives you a free item for, like, your first upgrade for free.
Right.
And the one you select is the climbing gauntlets, which allow you to cling to walls and wall jump. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really, really early on in the game that you get it. Mm-hmm. And the main character says, this kind of feels like I should have just started with this equipment. And the shopkeeper's like, yeah, well, you know.
That's so good.
So
okay.
That one and he does do this really, really cool thing where every level you can, when you, like, talk to him, you can say, tell me a story. Okay. And he'll tell a parable with a twist at the end of it.
Ooh, fun. Okay, that's awesome.
Like, he does one where he does the Princess and the Pea, where the princess is looking for a suitor who is sensitive enough to feel a pea under, a stack of mattresses, right?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And she finally finds one that does that, that is able to feel it, and she marries him immediately, and then realizes that he's too sensitive, and all he does is complain about every little thing.
Okay.
And what she really needed to do was look inside herself and find some personal growth and move past her need to find a sensitive husband.
That's great. Oh my god. Okay. Well, I actually own The Messenger. I got that on a Steam sale, and so I actually need to fire it up. Beyond
that little, try-hard script sometimes, it's really, really good. The gameplay feels awesome, and I'm excited to get to, the more advanced parts of it.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
I also started up The Ruiner.
How do you like that? I like that soundtrack a lot, and I listen to it all the time, but how do you like it?
I liked it. I didn't really enjoy it at first. Then I switched to playing it on a controller, and I like it a lot more.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I feel like a lot of games like that are really more so geared for controller play.
It's, and I should have figured this out, because when I played Bastion, I played it on a controller, and I liked it a lot more.
Right.
And I think I did switch when I played Transistor. I did switch from keyboard and mouse to controller, and I liked that more too. So I think I just need to play twin stick shooters with a controller.
That makes sense, because it's literally twin stick.
Yeah. But it does play really good, and the aesthetic is so fucking on point.
Oh god, the look of that game is so tight.
Character designs are great. It's Devolver Digital. It's nice and gory and intense and dark and brooding and grindy and...
Sure. All those good things. All that shit we love.
All that, fucking, video artifacting going on and text scrawling across the screen and, hate being printed all over the character's helmet.
That aesthetic that you and I are both, big, stupid suckers for.
You go to the city and it's all fucking decked out cyberpunk, neon signs, and all that gritty grime, and it's great,
Yeah.
You get rescued by this old man, and he's got a busted prosthetic robot arm, and, it's so good.
Of course. I listen to that soundtrack all of the time, because it is extremely bumping.
Oh yeah, so good.
I just haven't had a chance to actually sit down and purchase and play it yet. So
yeah, but it's great, and I'm excited to go back to it.
Right.
I did read and watch a lot more stuff though.
All right, give us the rundown.
I read the first 2 chapters of Time Paradox Ghostwriter.
I don't even know what that is.
Is a new manga in Shonen Jump.
Okay.
It is about a mangaka. An aspiring mangaka who writes a lot of stuff, but none of it is really gripping.
Okay.
He's submitting it to Shonen Jump. It's kind of self-referential. It's about a guy who wants to work at Shonen Jump, being printed in Shonen Jump.
Right.
The editor who needs to approve his stuff is always like, well, your characters are kind of bland and generic, and it just seems very amateurish, and So his house gets struck by lightning, and the thing is he moved away from his family in the country, and he has this tiny apartment, and all he really has going for him is his microwave,
Okay.
It's the only thing he gets to come home to, is the only appliance he has besides his writing desk.
Is his microwave.
Yeah, his house gets struck by lightning, and it melts his microwave.
Oh my god.
And he's taking this as a sign to give up. And it dings and opens, and inside of it is a copy of Shonen Jump.
Oh my
From
god.
10 years in the future.
Okay.
And he's reading it, and he finds this one shot in it that he doesn't recognize any of the series in it. It's all brand new stuff, and he finds this one shot.
Okay, no, alright, we gotta stop right here real quick.
You're gonna make the joke everyone else has made. Go ahead.
One Piece would still be going.
Yes, there you go.
That's the joke everybody else has made. I know it. But you and I both know One Piece would still be going in 10 years. Okay?
But, so, in this bizarro world where it apparently ended within this next 10 years...
the most bizarre of universes.
He reads this one-shot, and he's, like, super inspired by it. And he basically uses it as a storyboard for... Because he doesn't know what's going... He doesn't believe it. He thinks it's a hallucination, it's a dream, whatever, you know?
Sure.
But he spends all night, like, rewriting it. Like, not necessarily copying it, but just, like, you know, reinterpreting it into his own words.
Sure.
And it's a huge success. Like, he submits it, and everyone loves it. Like, it's, you know, super compelling and interesting and fascinating.
Right.
And, the chapter ends, like, the first chapter, ends with this high school girl reading the current volume of Shonen Jump and wondering why the comic she's working on is being printed in it.
Ooh, okay, that's good. Okay.
And so the second chapter is him being racked with guilt, like, I can't believe I just kind of fucking stole this idea from the future.
Right.
And now I'm not sure I want to do this, and, you know, I don't know if I feel good about what I did, and I don't have the inspiration to keep writing.
Right.
And then the next volume appears in his microwave. And so he can plagiarize the next chapter, and he's like rationalized, like, it's not really plagiarizing because it doesn't exist.
Yet?
It's not real, and if I'm writing it now, then it's not going to be written in the future, so it must be fine. And then chapter 2 ends with him walking out of the office after submitting chapter 2, and it's the girl, and she's like, hey, are you the author of this manga? Hey, how did you know about this?
That's awesome. Okay,
So,
that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't going to read it because I was afraid the plot would be they're not going to meet up for 5 years.
Right.
You know?
It'll take 100,000 chapters.
To get to the part where they actually interact. Yeah, but it's like, second chapter, she's going to confront him. Okay, cool. All right, I'm interested now.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Are you keeping up with Chainsaw Man, by the way?
No, I'm not. I need to get back into it, but I fell off for like a few months, and I'm just like, I need to pick up and reread it.
Saturn at Big Gay Nerds told me to read Chainsaw Man, and I feel like if Saturn tells me, because we have extremely convergent tastes, then I probably should. After like you telling me and a bunch of other people telling me, and then Saturn also, I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Fine.
I need to get back into it. It was really, really good when I was reading it. Yeah, I've also been watching stuff.
Okay.
I watched a few episodes of The Midnight Gospel.
That's the new Pendleton Ward show.
Yes, it is. Okay. It is not a show you can really... I don't feel like you can really binge it.
Okay.
Because what it is it's just an animated adaptation of someone's podcast.
Oh. Hey, Mr. Ward. You know, if you wanted to adapt a podcast, I've got two.
It is... Let me find the name of the actual podcast. Hold on one second. I should have written this down. No. It is an adaptation of the Duncan Trussell Family Hour.
The Duncan Trussell Family Hour?
Yes. It's just it's an interview podcast where he just interviews cool people, you know.
Okay.
So every episode it's framed in it's that this guy goes into alternate realities where he meets people and interviews them, and it's like framed in a different concept. Like the first episode is about he's in like the cartoon character is interviewing the president of the United States in a zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
And so he's having a conversation about legalizing drugs.
Right.
And whether or not you're for or against it, and to what degree, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So while it's being animated, it's done in that intense, like, you know, loose and free Pendleton Ward style.
Sure.
Of them, like, you know, running from zombies and driving around and stuff, while these two characters are having this really chill conversation about, like, drug trips they've been on and stuff.
Yeah.
But because it is just an animated podcast, like, it doesn't really have, like, it's not really something you're, like, super compelled to watch over and over again.
It doesn't really have, like, a plot thread.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a framework behind it, but, like, there's nothing really beyond that. There's nothing really tying it together. But they do will do a nice thing where like they've gotten the interviewee back into a studio to like record extra lines to like fit with what's happening on scene.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah.
So like there is one bit where, because the character's name is Clancy, but it's, the interviewer is Duncan Trussell.
Right.
So there is one bit where because it's two characters talking over each other, they couldn't edit out that someone calls him Duncan. And so Clancy has a line where he's like, wait, who's Duncan? My name is Clancy.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that's smart. Just to make it all flow.
Yeah, but like for the most part, like it's, they'll drop a few lines here and there, but for the most part it is just like, you can listen to this podcast episode and get basically the same interview.
Right, okay.
But if you're interested in like fun Pendleton Ward trippy animation and like super weird visuals, it's super chill and just entertaining to watch. Like I can't really do more than 2 episodes at a time because otherwise you just kind of lose focus.
Yeah, I mean, you can't absorb more information than that without it all kind of like blurring together.
Because, also because like what they're talking about and what's happening on screen is so dissonant.
Right.
But yeah, it is fun and chill and enjoyable in small bits like that. I also watched Solar Opposites, which is Dan Harmon's new show, the creator of Rick and Morty.
Yeah. Which
I feel like it's just a weaker version of Rick and Morty.
Okay.
So we watched a few episodes of that, and there were bits that were funny, but it's like none of these. You know how like Futurama is so different from The Simpsons?
Yeah, of course.
There were a lot of jokes in Solar Opposites that I'm like, these could just be in Rick and Morty.
Yeah, they're just Rick and Morty jokes. Yeah.
There is one interesting premise that like I might go back and watch depending on how much they focus on it. The show is about this family of aliens crashes on Earth and they have to live there until their ship is repaired.
Okay.
The 2 kid aliens like have a habit of shrinking people down and putting them inside their wall. Okay. Like they have like a zoo exhibit style. They're like a reptilian exhibit wall, like glass ecosystems.
Right. Yeah.
Where they put shrunken down people and like they form their own society within the wall.
Okay.
And it will show like occasional snippets of what's going on in there while the main plot's happening.
That seems like the more interesting plot.
It definitely is.
Right, yeah, and
like
it's not the main focus.
And I don't know if they focus more on that later on, but like if they do, then I would be more compelled to go back and watch it.
Right.
But beyond that, it's just like, well, this is just like a Rick and Morty that another channel, picked up.
Right, yeah, of course. They're just trying to capitalize on the success of Rick and Morty, really. Okay.
Let's see, there's a few other things. She-Ra ended. Season 5 ended.
She-Ra ended. The lesbians continue to win. Good for them.
It is probably one of the best cartoons on Netflix.
Okay.
Like, absolutely slam dunk every single season.
Right. Cohesion of vision and just being able to, like, carry a plot through from beginning to end. Imagine that.
Knowing what you want to do, being able to execute it really well, and writing super compelling characters and interpersonal conflict and growth and characterization and super, super solid all the way through.
Right. I need to pick that one up, actually.
When you know where your show is going to go and how long you want it to go, that's a big like plus in your favor.
Right, yeah, to be able to actually have direction from beginning to end, essentially, is allows you to make some pretty compelling TV. So
as it turns out.
Yeah, actually knowing what you're gonna do, considering we were talking about this on another server. Considering we are like a week out from the 1-year anniversary of the end of Game of Thrones.
God.
Can you just...
What's Game of Thrones, Sarah? I've never heard of this thing before.
God! We were really talking about this, like, hardcore, the end of Game of Thrones, and it's just, like... I cannot wrap my head around the fact that Game of Thrones was so culturally dominant for so long. Like,
everything wanted to rip off Game of Thrones.
And everybody loved I loved Game of Thrones until the end of, like, season 4. Like, I loved Game of Thrones, man. And it's so good. I went back and I watched scenes from the first, like, 3 seasons. I somehow, you know how you fall down, like, a YouTube hole and kind of end up in, like, a place you didn't expect? Well, I ended up in a bunch of Game of Thrones scene compilations from the first 3 seasons. And there is this, I'll send it to you after the podcast is over. There is this excellent scene where it's just Charles Dance who plays Father Lannister, so the parent of Tyrion and Jaime and Cersei, and you know, it's literally just conversation between Jaime and Tywin. That's his name, Tywin Lannister. And it's just a talk. It's a conversation. Charles Dance is as the scene is going on actually skinning a real deer while he's talking to Jaime, which is just incredible. And it's just a conversation. There's nothing else more elaborate going on. And it was like, I was so sad watching it because I was like, man, this show used to kick ass. It was so smart and so, like, compelling. And then it just fell the fuck apart.
I've never seen anything crash this hard.
I mean, like, even Mass Effect had more cultural purchase
after
its fucked up ending than Game of Thrones.
No one. I've never seen anyone say, no, I liked it.
I don't think anybody likes the end of the last season of... Even if you are... And I was kind of in the same camp as a lot of people, where, like, when I was watching Game of Thrones in the early seasons, where it's like, oh, Daenerys is gonna go insane. I know it. She's gonna be a bad person by the end of this show. Like, I knew that, but the fact that, like, how they got there from, like, the end of season 6 to the end of the last season... It's like, no, you needed like 4 more seasons to establish that arc to make it feel compelling. They just jumped right to it. With the way Game of Thrones is now, it is this incredible heel turn from like a compelling character who feels snubbed when she is not given her appropriate due deference for improving people's lives. Like, one of Daenerys' things is it's like, well, like in season 1, you can see them setting it up where she saves the woman who curses her husband to die, and she's like, I saved you. And that woman is like, you didn't save me from shit. Your husband's tribe sacked my, like, and ruined my life, you know, but because she wasn't appropriately deferential to Daenerys saving her, then Daenerys burns her to death, of course.
Right.
Like, that's the end of season 1. And it's like, oh, they're planting that seed where it's like people aren't grateful enough for Daenerys' taste, I should say, to make her happy. It's like, oh, that's what they're setting up, is that eventually she'll sweep in and she'll take over King's Landing, and then the people of King's Landing won't be grateful enough, and she'll, you know, lose her mind. That's fine. It's like, cool. You're setting that up, and it works out perfectly well. But instead they just like, let's do some war crimes. So it's like, what? No. To me, and like that little nugget of character building, again, in incredibly intense finger quotes, is like, it establishes the whole arc of everybody's character. You can use that as an example of the fact that nobody knew what the fuck they were doing with any of these characters in season 8. And it's like, man, imagine having that much command over pop culture only to immediately squander it to such an intense degree. Like, the only thing that could even do that, that did that even harder, was Star Wars.
Yeah. So even Star Wars is still in the cultural zeitgeist.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, Star Wars is so entrenched, it's never going anywhere, of course. But I mean, like, fuck, does anybody even talk about The Rise of Skywalker anymore? No. Because it all just makes this one be dead. Kind of like season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That's a funny comparison to make between She-Ra, which is admittedly a show for, like,
children. It's Y7.
It's a Y7 show.
No one swears in it.
14-year-olds,
Yeah.
14 to, like, 18-year-olds could still watch it and enjoy it. But, you still, this whole idea of, like, having a singularity of vision and, like, knowing the direction you're going to take and following it from start to finish and having it all written to fit within, 5 seasons?
5. Yep, 5.
5 seasons. How it all fit together perfectly is like, man, imagine that.
It was great because it released around the same time that Avatar hit Netflix as well.
Yes, speaking of children's shows with
that
singular visions.
Yeah, and it's like the direct comparisons you can make between Catra and Zuko. And how well their character growth was written.
Right.
Is like amazing.
You love it.
She-Ra did such a great job with like just everything.
Right.
It was phenomenal. Definitely a super highlight. Now it's one of those shows that like I'm gonna go like watch it in like a year.
Right, just to relive those feelings.
In the complete opposite spectrum of really, really good shows with like a constant ongoing plot and lots of development and like every episode kind of continues the story. Mm-hmm. I started watching Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
How do you like it?
I love it.
I bet you do.
It's fucking great because it's if anyone doesn't know, that is the show that looks like it was animated by Gainax.
Yeah, no, that show, every time I see clips of it, it is the most intense. It's like, imagine.
I'm baffled that Nickelodeon is like, yeah, make the show. Because it's every episode. Every episode has an action sequence that's that good.
That blows my mind. That it's allowed to be that,
They're 11-minute episodes, two 11-minute episodes per 22 minutes.
Right.
And it's like the most mundane plot lines will still have just these insane action sequences.
Oh, you love to see it, man.
The production is like so out of this world.
It's what happens when the weeaboos grow up.
It's exactly what happens.
That's what I've been saying for years. It's like eventually everybody who watched Toonami when they were 13 is gonna be an adult. And they're gonna get a job making cartoons.
This show is so well animated and so well produced that every day I'm like, has it been canceled yet?
It's too good.
And I'm like, I'm like about to like research toy lines and stuff. Like, how are the sales doing for action figures? Like, are they gonna get to make more of this? Because it's so. And I'm like, why is the voice acting in this series so good? Like, everyone is absolutely crushing these characters, and the direction is like super on point. Looked it up. Voice director's Rob Paulsen.
Tell us who Rob Paulsen is, Ben.
Pinky, Yakko.
Okay.
If you watched a cartoon in the 90s, Rob Paulsen was in it.
Yep.
If you watched a cartoon now, Rob Paulsen's probably in it.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It is funny because there's two like Foot Clan commanders that keep showing up as recurring villains, and they are Rob Paulsen and Maurice LaMarche.
Yes.
So it's Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah, of course. Amazing.
Yeah, the voice acting is just like top of the line. The animation is incredible. The plots are every episode, even the ones that are just like generic like cartoon plots, are so funny and well written, and the timing is flawless with every single joke.
Right.
And then there's points where it stops being jokes at all. And
yeah.
The jokes take a hard cut into serious. And like, oh, it's so good.
It is really just incredible that shows like this are allowed to exist.
When Shredder finally does show up, it's like, oh, this isn't funny anymore.
Right, it's hardcore. Yeah.
There's a bit in one of the season finales where the arc villain shows up, and like after like being absent for a long time, when the turtles are like in a pretty precarious spot,
Mm-hmm.
And they get fucking, like, power level pressured.
Okay.
Like, just his presence is enough to, like, increase the gravity in the room.
Oh!
And, like,
Raw.
the color palette just goes entirely red. And, like, everyone is sweating, and it's so good.
Oh, it's raw. You love it when, like, anime shit like that makes it into your American cartoons, man.
There are so many things that are just, like, Gainax entirely.
Right.
You know the thing in, like, a Gainax or a Trigger series where an object needs to grow bigger?
Yep.
And it will, like, disjointedly pop? Like, different parts of it will expand first?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that happens in this cartoon for children on Nickelodeon.
Hell yeah.
It's
Hell
so cool.
yeah.
It's so fucking cool.
Absolutely marvelous. You love to see it, folks.
Like I've said for a lot of things, I love when you take an established thing and you mix it up. Mm-hmm. Donnie is the only character that has his standard weapon.
Right.
And even his standard weapon is, like, tricked out into a super tech bow staff.
Right.
Leo has a single Odachi, and it's the fucking coolest look he could ever have. Raph has tonfas, and Mikey has, like, I don't know what it's called. It's the bladed orb on a string with, like, a handle at the end.
Meteor hammer.
Yeah, it's like a meteor hammer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super cool. Like, it's so great. They do really cool things with Splinter and April, and oh, it's so good. It's fucking an amazing cartoon.
Need to check it out. I know.
Cartoons
these days, though, they just kick ass, man. Kids are so spoiled for, like, how cool American cartoons are.
Mm-hmm. And it is really nice to have a show that, like, it's 3 seasons in, and it is still, like, here's an episode where Leo and Donnie get really competitive working at a restaurant.
Right.
Here's an episode where a giant lunch meat monster attacks April's school. I
saw a clip of that one on Twitter.
It's so
and
cool.
I was just like, you didn't have to go this hard, y'all. I mean, I respect it, but you didn't have to.
There is also one funny little quirk that I really, really like, is that the turtles are usually, like, called Raph, Leo, Donnie, and Mikey, right? Like, that's just, like, their standard nicknames. This one, they'll call each other different names. They'll call Leo, like, Leon. Donnie once called him Nardo. They'll call Mikey Angelo sometimes, which is really cool.
That's good.
Like, they'll call Donnie Donald.
My God.
Great. Splinter just calls them red, purple, orange, and blue.
Don't even need to bother knowing their names.
It's great. It's so good.
Okay.
Definitely, like, one of the best, like, and it is really refreshing to just have that. Like, I did actually end up, like, buying the seasons on YouTube.
Right.
Because I couldn't find high quality versions of them on other places.
Right.
And this is a show where it's like, no, I'm gonna watch this in 1080p.
Yeah, no, I want to see it, like, in its best form because of how well animated it is. Absolutely, yeah.
Like, it's definitely worth it because you want that shit crystal clear.
To soak it all in and enjoy how... I mean, like, the show is just gorgeous. Again, it's what happens when weeaboos grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and after I finished it, like, I saw a tweet that's like, yeah, there's more coming.
Hell yeah!
Good. Make more of this. Make 10 seasons of this. Never stop.
Never stop making this fucking lavishly animated TMNT adaptation. Good for them.
Yeah. And then the final thing I've gotten into is, speaking of cool YouTube videos.
Okay.
I've been watching a channel called Steve1989.
Ooh, I've never even heard of this one.
This guy has found his niche, and he is going to tuck himself into that niche, and he is going to do that niche really well.
What is this niche?
And that niche is old army rations.
Okay.
This dude will will get army rations from decades and yes, centuries ago.
Oh no!
From different places around the world. He will analyze their contents. He'll rate their contents. If he's able to, he'll eat them.
Oh no!
He got one from, I think, oh god, was it? It was early 1900s.
Benjamin,
and it was welded shut.
So, do not tell me this man ate this.
He was able to crack it open, and he was able to eat century-old.
No!
Century-old. It was not okay. I found it. It was 1899 British emergency ration.
You have to stop telling me these things. Did he die?
No, he's fine.
Oh,
he was fine. It was like super dried, but it came with two compartments. One of them had rusted away, so he couldn't eat that one. But there was this like dried like beef jerky potted meat.
No, Ben, no.
And he was able to eat it. He didn't, like eat all of it, but he was able to make a stew out of it and eat it. Now that's not all he does. He also does stuff from 10
Modern.
years and earlier,
Sure.
stuff. But it's just this weirdly fascinating thing where this guy has found this thing, and he was like super thrilled about getting this old one too, because it's like he's talking about how well preserved it is and how intact the container is and stuff, and he obviously he has these he mentions he has it on a display shelf and stuff.
No, that's easy. If you want to find a way to get old diseases, then eating old rations is the way for you. My man's is eventually going to get some sort of rare and previously extinct type of tapeworm or something from eating 800-year-old rations. There was
one he found where it's the metal got corroded and rusted through, so everything was spoiled in it, but the packaging looked still intact, so he was excited about getting able to preserve that,
right?
But he was pulling out this stuff. It's powder, it's not even mold or anything, it's just black powder at that point.
Sure, at that point it's so dried and desiccated that it's literally, after a certain point, there's nothing to even rot. Even the mold has eaten it away, so that's all that's left is just powder.
But it's funny because he has that 1899 old beef, and he's talking about it's kind of lacking in flavor.
Yeah, no fucking shit, buddy.
Yeah. He's shocked that 120-year-old beef could taste bad.
Amazing. Oh my god.
But no, it's just funny because he'll these are MREs. They're not meant to be good in the first place.
They're just meant to feed you.
Yeah, they're protein and vitamins you need to keep going. But he'll talk about this veggie omelet tastes terrible, and but he's a member of the Clean Plate Club. He's got to finish it.
No.
It is nice to finally find a food-themed show that doesn't make me hungry.
It's yeah. That's why I always say I can never finish Emiya Gohan, is because I just can't. I watch it and I get hungry. I'm I can make Asian food right now. No, I can't. Oh my god. Well, yeah. No, all right then.
It's so so fascinating, so interesting.
Well, 100-year-old food. No, thank you.
Yeah, but it's it's not it's fucking rotted and gross.
No, of course not. But it's still. Don't put that in your body. My man is going to turn into a zombie or something. Or at least awaken a mummy's curse. I don't know. I saw The Mummy.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That's totally how this works. You open something forbidden, and then suddenly you've got locusts. It's fine. All right, are we good?
It. Let's talk about the news.
Let's get into the news.
It's an hour and a half in. Let's talk about the news.
Let's do this quickly. Tell me that you don't have a lot of news articles.
I don't. I'll skip over a few of them, too. First off, massive Nintendo leak reveals all about the Wii generation, source code, design files, and so much more.
Woohoo! The Gorge does not endorse the extremely cool crime of piracy, but also
a lot of cool
extremely
stuff.
Cool.
And, you know, this is the kind of thing where it's like, no, they're not. They can't, even as far as emulation goes, they cannot just copy this code.
No, of course not, but they can reverse engineer this code.
Yes, and that's the cool thing. And it's just, it is cool to get a look backstage.
Sure, absolutely.
At stuff like this. This is going to be a big thing for emulating a lot of these older games and stuff. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like it's just like really, really fat. Like just to find this big thing that's going to change how we preserve games and how we emulate them and stuff.
Sure, because I mean, like, you know, you can be a Nintendo fan. I'm not really like a Nintendo fan. I just appreciate a handful of their games, of course. But you can still admit that Nintendo doesn't have an incredibly good philosophy of historical preservation of their old titles, considering how skimpy being able to buy like old games on the Switch is. So it's like, yeah, sometimes the only way to preserve games for the Switch, or for like the Wii, I mean, you really are only afforded one option, especially because the Wii was such an interesting, kind of like the PS2 2.0, where it was so ubiquitous and so many people had one, and the standard of quality control was so low. Let's be real for a second.
Oh, we had some shovelware on it.
A ton of shovelware, but it also meant you got a lot of like weird experimental shit that just got shoved onto the Wii. Because so many people had one, that it's like, yeah, you release it on the Wii, and you might, you know, who knows, you might sell 100,000 copies, and for some people, that's a lot of money. It's like, yeah, you do kind of want to preserve that. Even bad video games deserve to be preserved for one reason or another. It's like, yeah, you need a good Wii emulator for how many games ended up on the Wii, ultimately. Most of them were bad. That's the funny thing about the Wii.
Yeah.
I think like 90% of games on the Wii were bad. But still, you still want to have those available for whatever reason, you know? Like, we still hang on to bad books. You should hang on to bad video games, too. Bad movies are allowed to exist for years. There's a whole subgenre of people who just really love bad movies. Preserving bad video games is the same philosophy, you know? So.
Yeah, so cool. So just cool stuff with that. Next up, we have Billy Mitchell takes his Donkey Kong high score cheating case to
get
court.
fucked! Get fucked, Billy Mitchell! Fuck off!
This dude! My mans!
You need to give that one up. I know that, like, in retrospect, in 2020, we know that the King of Kong was kind of edited to make Billy Mitchell look like a villain. Because all good stories need a villain, right?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, sure, the King of Kong was maybe, like, you watch it now and you're like, oh, this was kind of tweaked to make Billy Mitchell look like an asshole. And then it turns out Billy Mitchell is just an asshole.
Yeah, but, bro, no matter what, bro...
You got caught cheating.
You did cheat.
You for sure cheated, my mans.
We know for a fact that you did cheat. Whether or not you can do it now doesn't matter. You did cheat.
Like... We
know. Proved it.
People mathematically proved that you cheated, dude.
Whether or not the show made you out to be more malicious than you actually are is a different thing.
But you for sure cheated, and ain't nobody likes cheaters. Fuck Billy Mitchell. I bet his hot sauce tastes like ass.
Let it drop, dude.
I've always been curious about what Billy Mitchell's hot sauce tastes like, though.
Probably bad.
Which is extremely... Please do not take that that voice clip out of context. Thank you. That's all I ask of the people listening to my podcast right now. Thanks.
Let's see what else we got here. EA reportedly doesn't want to make Skate 4, does want to make a mobile version of Skate 3.
Get fucked! Make Skate 4!
So speaking of that, let's get a quote from who is it? Who is this quote from? Let me find. Jason Dill was called by EA to discuss a mobile version of Skate 3. Here is his quote. I got a call from the EA people about 10 months ago, and they said, hey, we want to talk about the skate games. This woman emailed me, and she basically said, hey, Jason, we want to do a mobile version of Skate 3, and I wrote back and said, what else? She wrote back, no, that's it. So I wrote back, look, no big deal. No one wants your stupid mobile version of Skate 3. Make Skate fucking 4 already.
That's all we want in life.
We just want Skate 4.
That's it. Look, they're making a new fucking Tony Hawk game.
They are.
Like, people want it.
That's on here, but yeah, they're making a new Tony Hawk game. It's fucking make Skate 4.
Is it so much to ask to get Skate 4 in the year of our Lord 2020?
You do this to me in the year of the Hawk? The year of the Hawk's resurrection? You say you will not make Skate 4?
Now, more than ever, when people can't go anywhere and we just want to play a fucking skating video game in our house.
Now that Tony has shifted over to the resurrected timeline and is trying to save Bam once again.
We will rescue Bam. It's the rescue Bam arc of Shonen Jump. That's all we want.
The whispers can't stop you from saving Bam this time.
It's so much to ask to also want Skate 4 right now. No, I think we have simple needs. I want a skating video game that's called Skate 4 alongside the remake of Tony Hawk's 1 and 2. That's it.
That's it. That's all we want. I'm just fucking picturing Eric Sparrow like 7 seconds till the end. You have 7 seconds to get like 10,000 points.
Yeah, that's it. That's totally it. Not 10,000. Let's be real. Like a million points.
Yeah.
That's how Tony Hawk challenges work. Come on, man. Okay, next.
This one's designed to hurt me.
Oh, no.
Footage of canceled Prince of Persia Redemption from 2012 surfaces.
Oh, God, we live in hell.
Oh, man, it looked really cool, too.
We're never getting another Prince of Persia. Ubisoft's just gonna keep making Assassin's Creed games at 30 frames per second.
I just want another Prince of Persia.
No,
I want
dude.
I want to run on a wall and fucking swing a sword at the sand monster.
Solve a puzzle or two. Is that so much to ask?
I want to
do a time. Can I shove a block with my shoulder? Is that so hard?
Oh,
no.
It looks really cool, man.
We're never getting another Prince of Persia game, dude. It's that franchise. You gotta understand, the thing is that, like, Prince of Persia requires, like, even a modicum of creative energy that just does not exist at Ubisoft anymore, you know?
I watched that trailer for for Valhalla.
Oh, God.
Like, you could take Assassin's Creed off that.
And just call it Valhalla.
Yeah, there's nothing that is Assassin's Creed in that anymore.
The only thing, and they made such a big fucking deal out of it. And here's the thing, like, I didn't even know that Assassin's Creed had gone into the hell time where, like, they made a big fucking deal about the wrist blade coming back. And I had to be like...
It left?
It left? You mean you took out the only cool thing in Assassin's Creed?
The Assassin's Creed is two things: a white hood and a wrist blade.
And you took out the wrist blade?
And the white like, dude isn't even wearing red.
There's it's like you took out... Like, okay, fine, you lead, like, a Viking settlement. I guess, like, the cool, striking, like, eagle hood of old Assassin's Creed games doesn't technically work. But there's no other establishing visual... Even, like, fucking, is it Origins? That's the one that's set in Egypt.
Yeah.
Like, Origins had the white, like, Horus hood, you know?
Yeah. And it's like... Oh yes, the thing that assassins are known for, base building.
Yeah, that's totally what an assassin do. Like, I guess so, because, like, the whole point of the literal first Assassin's Creed game is that it's semi-historically accurate, where it's like, yeah, there's a, you know, like, the Assassin's clan is based off of, like, the Assassin from, like, you know, the Crusades. But so, like, yeah, there is a base building aspect in that. Like, yes, assassins did have a village, but, like, don't be like, we brought back the wrist blade, because again, all I do is go, why did you make the wrist blade go away?
Yeah, why do you need to bring it back? It should always be there. That's Assassin's Creed's thing.
Why would you take away... Even, like, Assassin's Creed fucking 2, like, cheaped out and took away the fact... So, like, the thing about Assassin's Creed 1, it's not a good video game, but I like Assassin's Creed 1. Because, like, it was interesting for the time, right? Like, Assassin's Creed 1 was unique for the time. Nowadays, it's like everybody makes these games like that. But at the time, like, yeah, it was an interesting, like, idea... Like, you know, intensely... accurate historical recreation of the Crusades, of, like, Jerusalem and stuff like that, right? Like, that's cool. And then, like, you had the 3 kind of visual hooks that were so fascinating. 4, kind of. There was, like, the idea of the leap of faith, which was in and of itself extremely, like, visually interesting, because you've just got these characters jumping off of extremely high places. You have the white eagle hood, you have the wrist blade, and then you also have the fact that the wrist blade required the severing of a finger, right? And so it was this idea that you could easily spot, if you were a smart person, you could spot an assassin just by noticing that they were missing a finger, right?
Right.
Like, this guy in white, he's missing a finger. That guy is dangerous. Even Assassin's Creed 2 backs down from the finger thing, right? Like, by 2, they've already cleared that out. So, like, you've slowly scrubbed the franchise of all of its establishing identity, like its visual identity, and then you want to bring it back and be like, look, we're remembering our roots. It's like, no, you just don't know what you're doing with this series, is what it sounds like. So, I'm not enthusiastic about Valhalla at this point.
So instead of any creative thing like Prince of Persia, there's just, hey, it's a base building game. Did you like Far Cry?
If I wanted to do a base building game, I'll just go play Fallout 4 for the 800th time.
So, speaking of Assassin's Creed, though, this is an article that I included. I included this article so I could include another one.
Okay.
Kotaku says gameplay trailers should have gameplay in them.
Yeah, you would think.
Unrelated, Inside Xbox May 2020 episode recap. So Xbox announced a bunch of stuff that's gonna come to Xbox first.
Not exclusively, just first.
And then later on other stuff where I'll be more likely to buy it.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Call of the Sea looked cool.
That's kind of it, though.
A puzzle game, a first-person puzzle game set in the 1930s. Looked kind of BioShock aesthetic in, like, setting, but not so much tone.
Sure.
Chorus looked cool. It looked like a star shooter. That looked fun. Scarlet Nexus looked interesting.
Yes.
The anime action game by Bandai Namco that they're working on instead of working on Tales.
Why would you say that? It's been 10 months. Not to get on a rant, but it has been 10 months since another Arise trailer. Like, do we live in hell? I mean, we do live in hell. We absolutely live in hell, of course. What am I saying? We live in hell, and the proof that we live in hell is the fact that I don't know what's going on with Tales of Arise anymore. I'm just like, I mean, if you've got time to work on this fucking Scarlet Nexus, which, by the way, I watched the Scarlet Nexus trailer. It looks cool. I think the aesthetics are extremely interesting compared to what they were doing with Code Vein. Which is a game I tried to play and was immediately turned off of. And I don't know if Scarlet Nexus is described as being more of a Devil May Cry-like than being a Dark Souls-like, so I will probably be more interested in that then.
I'm gonna say something about Scarlet Nexus that I feel really bad saying.
Oh no.
It looks better than what Platinum's putting out right now.
Oh no! Platinum isn't really putting anything out right now. Like, what the fuck happened to Bayo 3, buddy?
Like, I was gonna say it and I realized I don't remember what Babylon's Fall. That's it.
That's it.
I didn't remember what their game was called because it was so nothing.
It's just, I wanted to be excited for Babylon's Fall, and then I saw the gameplay trailer. Mind you, that is, again, finger quotes. Mm-hmm. I saw the gameplay trailer, and I was like, this just looks like Astral Chain, or like every other Platinum game they're putting out. I mean, I guess Astral Chain did well enough for them to open a studio in Tokyo, so like...
Yeah.
No, I don't want them to fail because I really want Bayonetta 3 to come out at some point.
You just want them to get better.
I just want them to get better, and it's like if I want a Devil May Cry like, honestly, yeah, Scarlet Nexus looks more like my thing in terms of I really dig its extremely weird monster aesthetic. Like, all of the monsters I saw in that trailer were very strange looking, and I mean, I'm super into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks interesting compared to, again, any of Platinum's fucking output. So, like, I mean, good for Namco Bandai. They've clearly carved down a niche. So where is Tales? Where is Tales of Arise,
please?
Where is the rest of the cast? It's been so long. You teased the third character with the last trailer that came out months ago, and it's like, where are they? Teased the mascot character, which, I mean, I don't like mascot characters just as a like a rational human being. I don't really like mascot characters. But I still want to see this one. Because, like, who knows? Maybe this one will be good. I like Tipo. That was my last Tales mascot character I liked. So who knows? Maybe I'll like this one.
Oh, you didn't like Bienfu?
Oh, God. Bienfu is the fucking worst. But Bienfu is barely a mascot character. Because he's hardly even important.
He's hardly even in the game.
He's just there for Magilu to abuse. Yeah. That's it, really. So it's like, that's cool. I guess it's kind of meta in that way, because it's like, oh yeah, people don't really like these mascot characters, so why the fuck is there one in a row? Okay.
Anyway, the only other game that looked interesting on this, on the Xbox thing was The Medium, which looks like a good American survival horror game.
Right.
Because it also has the music director of Silent Hill.
I like Akira Yamaoka. I like everything, like, all of his music is good. So, I mean, if anything, at least the soundtrack will be good, right?
Yeah. The visuals look pretty good, as far as, like, horror goes.
So
but, again, no gameplay, so I don't know what it's going to be like.
I don't know. Next!
Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath DLC introducing new characters and RoboCop. I think this is amazing.
We all love RoboCop.
They also introduced friendships into the game, and some of them are hilarious. You've got RoboCop doing the robot, which is awesome.
Good.
You've got Commander Jax and his radical sax.
Good.
You've got Kitana and Melina playing patty cake. Which is great because Melina's finally in the game. What else is good? Kano is barbecuing.
Okay.
God, the ones we haven't seen that I'm super excited for, what the hell is Johnny Cage's gonna be?
Oh, I know. That's the most important one, is absolutely Johnny Cage.
What are Johnny Cage's and Cassie Cage's gonna be?
Right.
We saw a glimpse of Joker's, which is interesting, because all it is he's about to shoot someone and Batman throws a batarang at him. So I want to see where that one goes.
Right.
So yeah, there's just like, this is like the kind of thing that like I do love about NetherRealm is when they do get creative like this.
Right.
I am excited to see. I think Terminator's is that he just like does stunts on his motorcycle.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then on top of that, they're also introducing like a new add-on to the story.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and a bunch of different stuff with that. Stage fatalities are back, and a bunch of other like recurring characters are coming back and stuff.
Okay.
They did get Peter Weller to do RoboCop lines.
Oh, good. We all love Peter Weller, y'all. Like,
especially
Peter Weller
after,
is good people.
Especially after how bad their Terminator voice actor was.
Yeah.
He was
you
not
might as well
good.
just get the original guy.
Yeah. They did. What was he say?
Isn't Arnold actually in something else?
Oh God, because Terminator was like in everything last year.
Well, I know
like,
that they did Terminator and fucking Gears of War, but that doesn't have Arnold in it, right?
I don't know. I feel like there were 3 things that Terminator was in. It was Gears, Mortal Kombat, and something else, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, I couldn't tell you either, because I definitely don't keep up with that kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like they got a replacement for him in Mortal Kombat, and he sounds terrible.
Oh no! Don't do that. Just pay the Governator.
Yeah, but they did show off RoboCop's fatalities, and yes, he does shoot someone in the dick.
Well, of course, that's what he's most known for.
Yeah.
Is that remember that time RoboCop shot that guy in the dick?
Yeah. So they know it's good with that. Also, like his alternate costumes all look really cool.
Did Detroit ever get its RoboCop statue?
Nope, we never did.
So Michigan.
Yeah.
Extremely Michigan.
So speaking of cool things that happen in video games.
Okay.
First look at Unreal Engine 5.
Unreal Engine 5 looks sick. I think people who are saying that it isn't going to change things don't actually know what video games do.
There was a bit where the voiceover guy was like, "Yeah, we imported those statues directly from ZBrush," and I went, "What?
Excuse me?" Yeah. I think that owns the fact that like you can directly import from ZBrush, and the fact that it will just seamlessly scale, because like how I'm trying to think of a good example. How like certain games will have cutscene models and will have gameplay models, you know? It's really apparent in like Final Fantasy VII Remake has very blatant cutscene and gameplay models. Unreal Engine basically, UE5 does away with that entirely.
Yeah,
like,
it's all cutscene models now.
Yeah, it's all cutscene models that can just automatically downscale to work within gameplays. You can just use the same model for everything without having to devote time to individually make like a model for this and a model for that. It all just works across the board, which is huge.
Unreal Engine 4 is also free for anyone until they make $1 million on their game.
Blows my fucking mind. Absolutely phenomenal.
And hey, when you make that $1 million, you can just import your shit from UE4 into UE5, no problem.
Yep. It is being done. Obviously, I am not a starry-eyed liberal. I am a cynical socialist. So I acknowledge that this is being done for extremely cynical reasons, aka Epic wants a massive market share of the indie game scene. That being said, the fact that this is like doing it probably as right as you possibly could is extremely cool. Go ahead.
Like when you look at this and you're like, what's the catch? And
there is no catch.
The catch is you have to make $1 million, then we'll charge you for it.
It used to be, this is what blows my mind the hardest. It used to be either $3,000 or $5,000, but a small amount of money. It used to be that once you made $3,000 to $5,000 off of your indie game, you would have to pay UE a licensing fee. You would have to pay Epic a licensing fee for using the Unreal Engine. $1 million for a lot of indie studios who are happy to get by off of like small sales, you know, functionally means that Unreal Engine 5 is free or Unreal Engine 4 and then ultimately 5 as well is basically free forever.
Yep.
The same engine that's being used to make like huge AAA games is now basically just free.
Yeah.
Forever.
That's astounding. We
Incredible.
talk a lot about how easy it's becoming for dev studios to appear and make games because everything is so accessible nowadays.
Right.
This is huge.
Huge.
This
yeah.
This is not Photoshop 2 is free when 5 is out.
Right.
This is the stuff people are using right now today to make huge AAA games is now free for anyone.
Anybody you can download Unreal Engine for free right now, make a video game, and if you make $500,000, which is a lot of money off of your little video game, you don't have to pay a cent to Epic. Like,
that's insane.
It's insane. That is insane to me. It is, and I was telling you, it is extremely smart business practices on the part of Tim Sweeney and everybody in charge at Epic, because like right now Fortnite is the biggest game in the world. Like everybody still plays Fortnite to a pretty incredible degree, right?
Right.
But Fortnite cannot last forever. Nothing lasts forever. This is why, for example, Overwatch is having a hard time, is because you get the sense that Blizzard just kind of thought they would be on top of the world forever, right?
Yeah.
But they're not. And so now they're kind of reeling and trying to find new ways to bring people in, which is, again, why this like extremely botched Overwatch 2 announcement happened last year, right? So you get the sense that somebody at Epic understands, like, Fortnite, nothing lasts forever. Cultural dominance, eternal cultural dominance is impossible, right? Mm-hmm. Eternal growth is not possible. It's the lie of capitalism that everybody sells you, is that you can just grow forever. Somebody at Epic understands that, no, Fortnite cannot grow forever. Eventually there will be a contraction, and we will not have that huge cash flow that we have from Fortnite. It could take 5 years, it could take 10 years, but one day Fortnite is not going to be on top of the world, and Epic will start seeing a decline in revenue, right? Mm-hmm. So, for them, the smartest thing they can do is find new ways to establish market dominance. And for them, they understand that the best thing is, honestly, just get your foot in with indie devs, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you have $100 coming in here and $100 coming in there, just from, it's fucking Office Space, right? Like the scam in fucking Office Space.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
to skim a couple pennies off the top, and it turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's the same philosophy here. If you can just have 1 million fucking game devs making their video games with yours, and you get a little cut of that, then that's just profit for basically ever. You are just, that is easy income being generated for them. And Unreal 4 and 5 are good engines, you know? Like they have their problems with fucking texture loading, Final Fantasy 7. But like, those are AAA engines, man. Yeah,
this is a huge this is beneficial to like everyone involved.
Yeah, everybody wins this way, which just blows my mind. Now, we'll see if they keep this generous revenue sharing up 5 years in the future. Mm-hmm. But for right now, man...
That's great.
It's great.
That's the way it should be.
You just come out on top.
Yeah. So, speaking of studios that are doing really good things for their devs...
Oh, no.
Doom Eternal's first update includes the Nouveau anti-cheat.
They've already taken it out, too. They're already article, like, nope, we're taking it out.
The next article, latest information and update 1 an anti-cheat, where The devs just where Bethesda goes, sorry.
Fuck, shit, sorry. Okay, please don't be mad at us anymore. We know you're already mad about Mick Gordon.
Yeah.
Don't make us any more angry.
Yeah, so they are immediately yanking that out. Next patch that comes around.
Yeah, there's no reason for kernel level installation for a game that is mostly known for single player. That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous to think they could sneak that in there and we would be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. No, nobody. No. I don't know anybody who's playing Doom Eternal for its fucking multiplayer.
Yeah.
Right?
Dumb. It's like, it's Bethesda gonna Bethesda, you know?
They're always gonna find a way, even to squander even the most positive of good news. Now, if you tell me there's Fallout 76 news on this list, I'm gonna punch you in the mouth.
There is not. There is Fallout news, but it's good news. I'll talk about that in a second.
Cool, hit me.
But first, again, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1-2 Remaster will be full of rad middle-aged dads. This is the best.
This is honestly the best, yeah.
This is so good. It's Tony Hawk 1 and 2, and that game came out in what, like 96, 97?
Something like that. Came out, actually no, later, because it came out at around the same time as Final Fantasy VIII. So 99-ish.
That's still like 21 years ago.
A long time ago.
They're getting all the skaters back in, and now we have the tech to like mocap and scan faces in and stuff. And it's like, oh, are you gonna do the Terminator thing where you de-age Arnold Schwarzenegger into a young man? No. They're all gonna be 50.
Because everybody who buys Tony Hawk 1 and 2 are like 30. We're all like 30 to 40 years old. We don't need our skating icons to stay young.
No, this is the best it could be. And genuinely, I'm super excited for this game.
Oh my god, this game looks great.
I have been craving a Tony Hawk for a long time, and this is great. Looks amazing. All the levels are great. It's Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Create a Skater is back.
They're bringing back a ton of the old soundtracks, so like Superman is back in. I know, it owns.
That's good.
It's good. It's so good. All the old music is still in, so you can still just listen to all of that, the same shit you listened to in the 90s. It's fine. Nobody will judge you.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Mm-hmm. We will try to rescue Bam this time. We will preserve the timeline.
Gonna do a Christ air and it's gonna rule. It's fine.
I can't. It's one of my favorite jokes ever. It's just the Tony Hawk timeline and how convoluted can you get? And just like
fuck a Kingdom Hearts. The most convoluted timeline in video games is the Tony Hawk Pro Skater canonicity. I don't know, canon. God, it's amazing.
I'm just the idea of just like Eric Sparrow hovering, like Tony Hawk hallucinating Eric Sparrow, like hovering around him.
Nothing personal, kid.
Tony Hawk tries to do a 900 and Eric Sparrow just deflects it.
Oh god. Okay, what's next?
That they really do need to get Ben Diskin to like bring the Eric Sparrow character into the remake. I know he doesn't technically show up until Thug, but like, come on, put him in there.
Please.
Next is the Fallout New Vegas fan remake is coming along nicely. This has been in the works for years.
It's never gonna happen. I'll tell you right now. It's not gonna happen. Because the Fallout 3 one was happening and it got shut down. So I will tell you now, do not get your hopes up.
Now, I found out this is even happening because Yuri Lowenthal retweeted a clip of it.
No!
Because, Bethesda knows this is happening.
Yeah, give it time.
The reason why it's taking so long is because for contract reasons, they're not allowed to import the dialogues, the audio straight from New Vegas.
Right.
So they have to re-record everything.
Yeah.
So of course, the latest clip that's getting passed around is Oliver Swanick and the infamous lottery cutscene.
I won the lottery. Yeah.
And Yuri Lowenthal retweeted that clip, and he's like, "This guy does a really good job impersonating me."
I guess if they were getting entirely like volunteer voice actor support instead of reusing the voices, because that's what shut down the Fallout 3 remake.
Yeah, the reason why this is taking so long is because they have to re-record every single line of dialogue in New Vegas, and there's a lot in New Vegas.
There's a lot of dialogue, and so like that's kind of why I'm like, because I mean Cascadia still isn't fucking out, and I actually very briefly worked on Cascadia. Have I ever talked about that on the podcast?
I don't think you told that on the podcast. No.
I very briefly, for a couple months, not even months, weeks, I worked on Cascadia, which is a Fallout 4 mod, a New Worlds mod set in the Seattle region, and I worked on it for a little while, and it was, I mean, I don't want to, like, speak ill of people doing volunteer work. So I will say that it was an extremely disjointed experience and leave it at that. There was not a ton of direction. Honestly, I'm just leaving it at that.
All right.
So I am iffy about huge projects like this, especially for Fallout 4 mods, which do require a lot of dialogue and stuff because there's a lot of talking. But who knows? I mean, they could just be getting tons of volunteer work to re-record lines. I don't know. I'm curious to see if this ever happens. It could take years.
They've been working on it for years, so like, you know.
I mean, New California, that Fallout New Vegas mod, took like 6 years.
Yeah.
So, Fallout 4 isn't even 6 years old yet. It is 5 years old this November. Which makes me feel fucking ancient.
Yep. I was going back a lot, but I was telling you about Rise earlier today, and I'm like, I just watched an episode of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where they made a Chappelle Show reference, which is a show that ended before this show's target audience was born.
Yeah. So that's cool. Makes me feel extremely fucking old. I'm not a fan of that. Nor the fact that, again, Fallout 4 is going to be 5 years old this year. It's already been 5 years, folks. Yeah. So it's going to be a long time. I mean, like, yeah, I don't want to be like a shithead who just immediately shits all over mods, but I am... If it happens, it happens. And if it comes out, cool. I'll be super fucking stoked to see that happen. The interesting thing is, actually, though, I did talk a little bit about Cascadia and my iffiness about it ever coming out. But Cascadia actually is responsible for the two frameworks that I think they are building New Vegas around, which is the restoration of the Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 skill system and perk system, working inside of Fallout 4's engine. Cascadia made that work. Cascadia also made the Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 or Fallout New Vegas dialogue system work inside of Fallout 4, which was an extremely hard nut to crack, essentially. People had a really hard time because you couldn't, for some reason, the way Bethesda made Fallout 4, you could not have more than 4 dialogue options on the screen, you know? Because of how, like, the way Fallout 4 works is you have a dialogue option corresponding to a button press, right?
Right.
So even if you have a full dialogue mod that shows everything your character is going to say, you could not have more than 4 options of dialogue per response box, I guess is the way to put it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was like hard-coded into the game, and so the Cascadia team actually sorted out a way to get around that. And so I think big games like this that are trying to use more expansive dialogue options that don't have voice acting and shit like that, they are working off of the stuff that the Cascadia team sorted out, because Cascadia team did release that as an individual mod. You know? Like, it is its own thing you can download off the Nexus right now and work with the skill system / perk system and dialogue system. So, I mean, like, they could make it happen. I mean, they've already got the framework basically laid out, so shit, fuck, it could happen. I don't know, but I'm still iffy. Not gonna make any plans to play the Fallout New Vegas remake in 3 years or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see, but yeah.
One final article here, and this is kind of a coming attractions, too.
Okay.
Here's the not E3 2020 press conference schedule.
Oh, good. Gimme.
So here's what we can look forward to coming up. Hold on. So tomorrow, May 22nd or 26th, is the Wholesome Direct.
The what?
The Wholesome Direct.
Okay.
Showing off a bunch of 50 wholesome indie games during a live stream on YouTube.
Okay.
The idea is to give cute, chill, non-ultra-violent games some time to shine. This means spotlighting stuff like Ooblets, Skatebird, and Rainy Season.
Okay, cool. Hell yeah. Maybe Ooblets will finally get a fucking release date.
June 6th is the Guerrilla Collective.
Okay.
A multi-day showcase focused on indie and mid-sized studios hosted by Kinda Funny co-founder Greg Miller.
This is like the second or third year they've done this too.
Some of these studios attached to it are 11-Bit Studios, makers of Frostpunk, Larian Studios, makers of Baldur's Gate 3, and Versus Evil, the people behind the Banner Saga and Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. The folks behind Disco Elysium will also be there. Is it too much to hope that an expansion is already in the works?
God.
Also...
Fuck. It would be so good to get another game from Studios out right now. I really... Yeah. Announce something. It's... yeah.
Also on June 6th, PC Gaming Show.
Oh, good. That's not dead yet.
Yeah. The Steam Game Festival, June 9th through 14th.
Okay.
This is where various demos will be unveiled and become playable on Steam.
Good.
This year, Microsoft will also be part of the event, suggesting that demos from some of its first-party games will potentially go live at this time as well.
That would be cool.
June 11th, CD Projekt Red, Night City Wire.
Okay, so that's their Cyberpunk show off.
Yep, their live stream for Cyberpunk. EA Play Live 2020, June 11th.
Oh, that'll be fun to make fun of.
Maybe this will involve Anthem 2.0 stuff. But we'll see. June 22nd, Day of the Devs. The Game Awards and I Am 8-Bit are partnering with Double Fine on a digital Day of the Devs event showcasing indie games with larger scale projects. Okay. Features like studios such as The Behemoth, Sabotage Studio, Team 17, That Game Company, and Tribute Games.
Okay.
And include gameplay previews, and new indie game debuts. Sega New Game Plus Expo, June 23rd.
Hey, it'd be cool if you guys would announce a Sonic game, a new Sonic Mania. That would be cool.
That'd be pretty cool if we could do that. They're teaming up with Koei Tecmo, Nice America, and a bunch of other publishers from Japan and North America to show a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Ubisoft Forward, July 12th.
Another thing to make fun of.
Yeah, more Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, most likely.
Yes.
Something for Microsoft in July. No solid date announced, but they just have something. Probably Halo, hopefully.
Halo.
And then
Halo Infinite.
The article also lists that other events coming in the next few months are Devolver Digital's annual E3 adjacent press conference.
Oh yeah, they're still going to do that no matter what. The Devolver Direct, I think the world would end if we didn't get that.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Physical game publisher Limited Run Games has a press conference for June 8th. Other publishers like Square Enix and Warner Brothers haven't confirmed any digital replacement events yet, while Bethesda previously stated that it would not be holding a digital showcase in June.
I know that Square Enix has basically said they don't have any plans for a full digital showcase this June. Maybe July, we'll see. I was really, really fucking hoping we could already get something about Final Fantasy VII Part 2, but I extremely doubt it.
Mm-hmm. So maybe later in the year.
Maybe later in the year. Let's see for August. I know that Tokyo Game Show is already confirmed to be canceled, so we'll see.
Yeah. That's it. That's all we got.
Cool. Boy, This COVID shit's really fucking with my summer plans.
Right?
So, we'll see. I would super love to get some actual, and conspicuously missing from that list is, Sony. I would really like it if Sony would just bite the bullet and reveal the PS5, price. Yeah. That would be nice. And also just show me the PS5, just in general. Like, the actual box. I would like to see that.
This standoff is getting annoying now.
The standoff is going to happen for a while. If I had to guess,
these cowboys have been standing in the middle of the road for like 3 days now. One of you,
drawn.
fucking come on.
Somebody has got to pull a pistol at some point, guys. Like, this is getting ridiculous. We all want to go home.
Yeah.
And make plans.
We're gonna build this town big enough for the both of you, okay?
I promise. So one of you has just got to pull that gun and tell me how much your next-gen console is going to cost. Like, what do you think, Ben? Do you think Microsoft is going to blink first?
They're gonna try really, really hard not to.
They are trying extremely hard right now.
But I think they are. I think eventually they're gonna sweat too much and they're gonna do it, and then somebody's gonna snipe them for $100.
Yeah, absolutely. They're even $50. You know, they're just gonna sweep in. I am slightly worried because by all accounts, it sounds like the PS5 is going to be a fucking beast. A lot of things I've been reading and seeing are just like, no, the PS5 is going to be one of the best pieces of gaming hardware you can buy, period, in 2020. Like, you will be able to buy the PS5 and it'll be one of the best pieces of hardware, PC or console, which is just like, oh, okay, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, but it also has me terrified that they're going to be like $700 again, and I will be like, no, Sony, I can't do that. I can do 5, maybe 6. If they said $599 for like a 2 terabyte model, I would bite, you know? 2 terabytes for an SSD is reasonable-ish, you know?
Yeah.
For a 2 terabyte SSD, that is pretty... I mean, it's not bad.
It's gonna be a rough purchase day one, no matter what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I still haven't heard anything personally about backwards compatibility on PS5. Like, I know obviously PS4, but I haven't heard anything about the rest of it. Which also makes it really hard. I don't know, man. It's just like, just give me... I know that the problem is that the PS3 is the sticking point, right? Like, the problem is that the PS3 was a nightmare to develop for, and PS3 games are a nightmare to port. Like, that's literally probably why the Exilias are still not on PC, right? Like, it's why we can have Berseria and Symphonia, Vesperia, and Berseria all on Steam, but like the game that came in the middle of all of those, and Graces, neither of those are on PC because they were developed. Graces F was developed for the PS3, and it's like the sticking point, and I feel like the reason is that Sony isn't... I feel like they're not gonna say like, yeah, you can play PS1, PS2, and PS4 games. You know?
They're gonna do all or nothing.
They want, so it's kind of like, they can say like, yeah, it'll play PS4 games, no problem. But once you start going further back in the library, that's when it gets really hard to make promises, because the PS3 is kind of famously horrible to make video games for. It's like why... like Final Fantasy Versus 13 became Final Fantasy 15 and came out on the PS4. It's why, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that's why Kingdom Hearts 3 never happened on the PS3. Like, you just have all of these different... I mean, it's like going back to Bethesda games and stuff. Bethesda games really famously ran like trash on the PS3 because porting to the PS3 was a fucking nightmare, you know? So it's like, I get why they're not announcing full back compat, but it's also making this purchase extremely hard. If all that it plays is PS4 games. Mm-hmm. It's like, especially because the Xbox, I really don't have any intention to buy a Series X. Like, I'm just not going to. There's mm-hmm. not going to be enough to justify buying a Series X, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if the Lockhart rumors are true. Because then it's... We could talk about this all night, but the idea if the Lockhart rumor is true, then that means that any game that is exclusively developed for the Series X is going to have to also be developed with the lowest common denominator in mind, which is why, like, PC games are always getting screwed, is because, like, PC games have to also be developed for shitty consoles in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if the Lockhart exists, then that means that Xbox exclusive games will have to be developed with Lockhart in mind, which means that Xbox games out the box will be gimped, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it does not make me terribly enthusiastic. I don't know. I want the PS5 to at least... If it can't play anything less than the PS4, then it needs to be cheaper.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
That's all it boils down to, is if it can only play PS4 games, then fine, I will pay $500 for your fucking console, but I'm not going to pay anything more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Just somebody please fucking blink.
Yeah. One of you please just announce a price.
Give me something. Fuck. Okay, sorry.
Right.
This has gone on too long. I didn't expect this thing to take 2.5 hours, but here we are!
Yeah. Alright. That'll do it for us. Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey, for background music. You can follow me on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. You can follow Sara at radioinactivity. You can email us at thegorgepodcast, and Sara will tell you about our other podcast right now.
Hey, I'm in another podcast called Big Gay Nerds, where me and a bunch of cool queer friends get together and we play tabletop games. We try out lots of different systems. We have a lot of fun. We are currently in the midst of wrapping up our Blades in the Dark block after a very long time playing this game. The conclusion is going to kick ass. It's a 3-day long heist on a train crossing an ocean. So there's nowhere for us to run and no way for us to hide. We have to basically complete this heist or die, and that is our last heist of this game. It is going to be incredibly cool. I have never been more excited for like any tabletop anything I've ever played in my life, basically. So please come check us out. Listen to our Blades in the Dark block. Listen to our Monster Hearts block. We're at Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and you can find the links to the rest of our social media from there. Thanks!
Alright, that'll do it for us. What do you got?
Fuck 2.5 hour long podcasts, man. At 10:45 at night for me. I'm fucking dying. We shouldn't have started so late, but we both got busy and things kept coming out.
Yeah.
So, fuck that. And fuck all this COVID stuff making things harder on our lives. And fuck the PS5 not having a price point.
Alright, we're done.
We're
Good
done.
night, everyone.
Good night.